What is good, YouTube? Quinway basketball analysis coming to y'all with that free agency coverage. Already, we see another move after the Celtics and the Thunder made their move. We see the Grizzlies and the Pelicans moving some chairs and some bigs and some picks around to get their team going in a different direction as the Grizzlies have been able to make the playoffs this last season even though they only won one game, they was very competitive and they was a couple buckets away, honestly, from really being able to be a dangerous team. They obviously wanted the number 10 pick. They trying to target James Booknight, a guy that I like, honestly, and in the draft just because he has all the tools outside of consistent shooting to be a special shooting guard in the league, and he's one of the highly touted players and should be a lottery pick. And if the Grizzlies want him, they won't be making the wrong decision just because he has huge potential and upside. And we know how unselfish Ja Morant is, as he is a playmaker. He can score and take over when he wants, but he likes to defend. He likes to get at you, and he also likes to set up his teammates for easy buckets. And he also don't have to be a ball hog. So that's one thing you gotta like about their star. They've been looking for a little bit more scoring on the perimeter, and I think that they can pretty much solve that with that number 10 spot. But this team is still young, they're still growing, they're still developing. They have a lot of young talent, and giving up Jonas was a big part of what they did offensively, being able to give you a bucket from three every once in a while, hit a mid-range roll to the rim from time to time, get offensive rebounds, and also post up and punish switches and also just go isolation and be able to get you a bucket near the basket whenever you need it. That's going to hurt a little bit losing an offensive player like that, especially because Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe are still under contract. They can eventually get out of this contract because it's basically stating that they're not even expecting to keep Eric Bledsoe at all. So he won't even be around before probably the draft. He'll be traded again, or they can just sit on it because they got cap space and just get rid of him when the deal is the right one that they want to take for him. And Steven Adams is a selfless guy, set screens, hit a couple hook shots, defend, rebound at a decent level. Just a standard big, not mind blowing, not amazing. He is a downgrade from Jonas, if I had to be honest. But let's get into the Pacifics for everything else. The Memphis Grizzlies agreed to trade Jonas Valuncinuas to the New Orleans Pelicans for the Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe. Also, Memphis will acquire the number 10 pick and number 40 pick in this draft 2021 with a protected 2022 first round pick, which is the Los Angeles Lakers, which is going to be where it's coming from. The pick from the Lakers will be protected 1 to 10 for that particular pick. And the Pelicans will also get the number 17 and number 51 back from the Memphis Grizzlies. So that's also important. And like I said, the move basically clears up room for the Pelicans in free agency, and they have been linked to Kyle Lowry, a guy that has been known as a guy that can defend, set teams, set guys up, also hit some threes, and is an all-star caliber player. And that's something that they lacked, which was offense. Lonzo Ball never really fitted. He never really was able to play his style and his game with the Pelicans, and Bledsoe just couldn't give them enough scoring and enough shooting to help out Zion and Ingram when they're trying to do their isolations or get to the paint. And Jonas is not going to help that significantly, but at least he's a guy that you can get the ball to and get you a bucket, and that's something that you can't rely on consistently from Steven Adams. And honestly, he doesn't really have that many moves anyway. But he was probably a better defender. But Jonas just plays harder and gives you everything he does, and then some offensively. And he's going to be pretty much about the same or a bit better rebounder. So you upgrade in that sense. So the thing about the Grizzlies is they take this so they can get a higher pick to get a guy that they want. I also heard that they trying to even get further up in the draft to make sure they can get the guy that they want. And it is another guy that they like too in this draft that they can pretty much get if they can trade up or keep at 10, I think Book Knight will be available at 10. I don't see why he wouldn't. But they can always get him because they still do have young players and picks that they can entice another team to, want to trade him to them and get some picks and some players in return. So basically, the Grizzlies are in a better position than the Pelicans. The Pelicans are trying to get where the Grizzlies are already at, and that's a competitive team with young talent to continue to grow into something more. But they already made the playoffs, and even last year in the bubble, they was one game away after losing to the Blazers to lose their spot from being in the playoffs 2 years in a row. And that's what Jaren Jackson missing a significant time these last 2 seasons. He's an integral part of what they do in their team, and they still have been one of the better teams in the Western Conference the last 2 years. And that's something that we didn't see happening, but it's something that's been reality the last 2 years. And I do feel like they got a little worse with this trade. And usually rookies don't come in and become impact players. And also rookies are not known as great defenders their rookie season, and they are inconsistent at scoring and also taking care of the ball, but also understanding the game. So even if they do get the guy that they want, I don't really think he can come in and be a huge force for them when it comes to what they have to give up, which was Jonas, who we know what he is, we know what he brings to the table, and we know what he can do at the NBA level, and that's something you don't know with a rookie. And you're going to have a lot of growing pains with the rookie also, just because he's on a different level, which will be his first time playing in the NBA for an entire season. So you got to put that in perspective if you're a Grizzlies fan. I think the Pelicans are in a better situation now, getting a guy like Jonas, freeing up cap space so they can add more pieces that they like to fit this team. They still do have other guards, even though they lost Bledsoe, Alexander Walker. They still have a chance because Lonzo is restricted to get him locked up, and now they have even more cap space to get Lonzo and somebody else locked up, or if they want to let Lonzo go, they can do a sign and trade now and get the guy that they want, or get another guy that they might like, and they don't really have to worry too much about cap because they free some more of it up by getting rid of Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe. And, the picks that they got, they can get rotation players. I don't think the picks that the Pelicans got in return are terrible. I don't really think they helped them significantly either. But then again, we are talking about rookies, and most of them do not have a significant impact on winning right away, especially when you're seeing them lower in the draft. But that do not mean that you're not going to get nobody good in return. It might just take years to see that happen, but you could get quality role players, possibly, which they have a few that they have to develop and grow still on their roster. And one of the biggest problems with the Pelicans now is that they have a lot of young talent still that they got to figure out what they want to keep, what they want to use, what they want to build around Zion, and how they want to build this particular team around Zion, as they now have a new coach, as Van Gundy is gone, and he's going to have his own scheme, his own play style with this Pelican team, which will be different than Van Gundy. Plus, since they moved some of the guys already, they're going to have a whole different play style because we don't even know who they're going to get. Plus, on top of that, we don't even know if they're going to keep Lonzo. So we can't really evaluate what the Pelicans did until we see who they draft and until we see who they get in free agency and to see what they do with Lonzo. So they still are, in a decent situation now, if not better, because now they can go out there and get a guy that they really want for this team. And on top of that, they still have some more young players that can really bring interest to other teams and probably move them for a guy that can help them win now too, as Zion is getting ready for his extension, as he was an all-star this year, and he plans to get better and dominate the league again. And if he gets that All-NBA, he's going to be able to get that Supermax, and it's going to be hard to walk away from that. Even if you don't like playing with the Pelicans, you still want to lock that up, then possibly get traded a year or two after that, honestly. So you might have Zion in New Orleans a little longer than what people would have thought with reports that happened last year in the season. But Zion is a franchise guy. He's a once-in-a-generational guy. We don't see a player like Zion still in this league, and that's what makes them special. But they still got to figure out how to use him and Brandon Ingram successfully. They still gonna have to figure out how to make these guys defend better, and they still gonna have to figure out who is gonna be their point guard and what they need them to do for this team to get back in the playoff picture. They was only able to make it to the playoffs 2 out of 7 seasons with Anthony Davis. They don't want to make that same mistake with Zion. That makes him want to leave. That makes him want to get out of there because they're not winning. And you're judged by how much you win. The Grizzlies don't have that problem because they already been competitive and they have already made it to the playoffs. They're just trying to find a way to get better and be able to continue to develop their guys and slowly get up the ladder and up the ladder, which they have done successfully so far, missing last year and making it this year. Now they're trying to get that last offensive piece to push them over the edge in the future to be a dangerous team in the Western Conference. And that's where they are right now. We just got to see what else the Pelicans decide to do and what direction they're going to go in. They have a lot of things they got to figure out. They have a lot of talent they got to figure out. And they got a roster and a starting lineup that they got to figure out. And once they do and figure out what's their identity and what they're going to do, the Pelicans might be back in the playoffs and we might be talking about Zion staying. But we don't know what's going to happen until we start seeing results and start seeing Adrian Wojnarowski breaking that news. They on the move. They on the rise. They making a lot of moves the last 2 years with David Griffin as a GM. But we still have to see what it becomes within the next 2 years. And hopefully we can see the Pelicans back in. If not, Zion might be on the move earlier than we think. Or he might be staying because they're doing the necessary things to keep him happy and keep him winning. And that's ultimately what a superstar is judged by. So we'll see what happens. Quinn Wade, Basketball Analysis, I'm gone, and I'll be back with more draft coverage later today.